By all measures, Anthropic is winning the AI race against OpenAI right now. Their revenue leapfrogged OpenAI. They have the overall smartest model on the planet with Fable 5. But here's the thing. Anthropic made a mistake 2 years ago that is haunting them to this very day. And OpenAI is exploiting that mistake at every turn.
Even if the technology goes as fast as I suspect that it will, we don't know exactly how fast it's going to drive revenue. We know it's coming, but with the way you buy these data centers, if you're off by a couple years, that can be ruinous. If I'm just off by a year in that rate of growth, or if the growth rate is 5x a year instead of 10x a year, then you go bankrupt.
That was Dario in an interview saying that he wasn't willing to potentially bankrupt Anthropic by investing so heavily into compute infrastructure in the chance that the AI demand curve wasn't as strong as everyone had predicted. And it turns out it was even stronger than anyone had predicted. And this mistake continues to cause problems for them even today. And when you combine that with the fact that they were the first AI lab to create a 10 trillion parameter model, this new monster-sized model, well before any other company did, those two factors amplify each other and have completely backfired on them. And by the way, I love talking about these two amazing companies, OpenAI and Anthropic. And if you do too, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel. It really does help. And this video is brought to you by Higgsfield. More on them later. So this is Thibaut from the OpenAI team. And seemingly every other day, he is doing a quota reset for ChatGPT accounts. And so there are two ways to pay for AI tokens from OpenAI and Anthropic. One, you can pay for a subscription, which ranges from $20 a month up to $200 a month, and you get a quota. You get a set number of tokens that you're allowed to use. The other way is to pay directly via the API. Now, the problem is the pricing in the API is substantially more expensive than what you're paying on a per token basis by paying for the subscription. So of course, most people want to use their subscription, not pay for tokens directly from the API. And so while OpenAI and team continue to give extremely generous quotas, they're also resetting the quota very often. And they are doing it as kind of salt on the wound of Anthropic, because not only is Anthropic's quota much less generous than OpenAI, they effectively never reset the quota. In fact, it became almost a meme how often Thibaut and the OpenAI team were resetting the quota, so much so I created a website for it. This is willcodexquotareset.com. I'll drop a link down below. And right now, there is a 94% chance that the OpenAI team will reset your quotas in the next 48 hours. That means you can use 100% of your weekly allocation of tokens, and then magically it goes back down to zero and you can do it again. And so all of these resets from OpenAI are happening simultaneously while Anthropic is telling us that they're going to pull the Fable model from your subscription. The only way they're going to allow you to use Fable is by paying the premium price per token through the API. But I think this would be a massive mistake. In fact, I just tweeted it. If Anthropic pulls Fable from the Claude subscription, they will be ceding substantial coding mindshare to OpenAI, will be a big mistake. Because think about this. They pull the Fable model from the Anthropic subscription, and all of a sudden you're having to pay, 10 times more per token to use Fable than GPT 5.6. And GPT 5.6 is actually really good. It is nearly as good as Fable on most benchmarks. It is more efficient. It is a lower cost per task achieved, and it just gets things done really well. And so you kind of factor all those things in, and all of a sudden the ChatGPT subscription is looking extremely attractive. Whereas if Fable were removed from the Anthropic subscription, I would probably cancel my subscription. But Anthropic has a wild card, which I'll tell you more later in the video. But first, to be able to even pay for my Anthropic subscription, I had to take a sponsor for this video. Let me tell you about Higgsfield. Higgsfield is one of the fastest growing Gen AI companies with a mission to be the most creator-friendly platform in the world. Introducing Higgsfield Supercomputer, your personal AI creative agent powered by Hermes. This isn't just an AI generator. It thinks, plans, creates, and executes your entire content strategy. One prompt can launch a full go-to-market strategy or spin up a faceless YouTube channel. Think of it this way: Higgsfield gives you the tools, Supercomputer gives you the brain that knows what to make, where to post it, and when to post it. It gets smarter the more you use it and continuously improves based on your workflows. It taps into a live trending database, helping you catch trends at their peak instead of reacting to them too late. It can even act as a full CMO, building audience segments, creative strategy, content, and distribution, all from a single prompt. So if you're serious about scaling content, automating workflows, and staying ahead of the trends, this is the kind of system you want behind you. I'm going to drop a link down below. Check it out. Now back to the video. So I want to show you two graphs that are really going to emphasize everything that I'm saying. So first of all, this is the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index. And as you see, first place, Claude Fable 5 at 60, a score of 60 on this index. What is number 2? GPT 5.6 Sol Max at 59. 1 point less than Fable, 1 point less. Now keep that in mind while I show you this next graph. This is the cost per intelligence task. So lower equals better. That means it takes less tokens, or the tokens are less expensive to achieve the same exact task. Now look at this. Claude Fable 5 coming in at $2.75 per task. And all the way down here, GPT 5.6, which is effectively the same score on total intelligence, coming in at just over $1 per task. So again, put yourself back in the buyer's shoes. You are considering an OpenAI subscription and an Anthropic subscription. Now, once Fable is removed from the subscription, you no longer even have the option to have the best model on the planet in your subscription. Instead, you are now relegated to use Opus 4.8 Max, which is also more expensive than GPT 5.6. So right here, $1.80. Very, very expensive. Even Claude Sonnet 5, more expensive. So again, all of these factors coming together, effectively the same intelligence, much cheaper on a price per task accomplished, plus much more generous quotas coming out of OpenAI's subscription. But here's the thing, Anthropic is no dummy. They see the problem with removing Fable. And every time that they say, hey, you're going to get 1 week with Fable on your subscription, right until the very end, they wait until the very end, 1 day before, and then they say, actually, you're going to get 1 more week. It just happened. This was yesterday. We're extending Claude Fable 5 access on all paid plans, as well as keeping Claude Code's weekly rate limits 50% higher through July 9th. Now, even with this weekly rate limit 50% higher, I burn through my quota with like 2.5 tasks. With my ChatGPT subscription, it takes effort to actually burn through my quota. And all the while Anthropic is debating even leaving Fable in the subscription, Thibault and the OpenAI team are doing things like this, temporarily removing the 5-hour usage limit restriction for all Plus, Business, and Pro plans. So you no longer currently have that 5-hour rolling window, which makes it even easier to use your full quota and thus use your resets, which get banked. Those resets get banked. You don't have to use them immediately. You get 30 days. So you can figure out how to maximize your ChatGPT usage. So all of this is to say, Anthropic and OpenAI are approaching the developer market, and their perception from developers is just so different right now. And it is all because of that one mistake. Anthropic does not have the compute necessary to be so generous with the Fable model. If they did, if Fable was as cheap as GPT 5.6 and they were as generous with the quotas, there really would be all the reason to just only use Anthropic models. And a lot of people are saying Anthropic is not doing all of this because they're capacity constrained. I've been saying they have. And in fact, Tarek from Anthropic has all but confirmed it. Listen to this. I've heard a lot of questions about Fable's availability. While it will come off subscriptions after July 7th, that's not true anymore, we aim to restore Fable as a standard part of our subscription as soon as capacity allows. That is it. That one decision 2 years ago is still causing pain for Anthropic, even though they have all the revenue, the best biggest model on the planet, the best researchers. They have all the ingredients except that one decision. And Sam's taking advantage of it. This was just posted yesterday. Sam is going into salty mode. Come for the best model. Okay, so arguable, but I really like 5.6 Sol. Stay because we don't treat you with contempt. That's the key. As a fan of both of these companies, I have just felt like Anthropic does not give a crap about me. OpenAI, on the other hand, is extremely transparent, very generous. And by the way, I put together a thorough review of GPT 5.6 on our website, forwardfuture.com. You get original essays, you get news roundups, you get all the tools that we're building as a team. So go check it out, forwardfuture.com. And look, I work with both of these companies and I like both of these companies, even though I've been, yes, very critical of Anthropic's tactics lately. And it is because I have felt at times as though they just do not care about their users. Where on the other hand, OpenAI seems to be more transparent, more generous with their quotas, and just their overall vision of the future seems to be more aligned with my ambitious and optimistic vision of the future. I do not like fear-based marketing. I do not like Dario and team talking about white-collar bloodbaths and all of these other things that just get people to really dislike artificial intelligence. Not only do I not like it, I don't believe it to be true. I think it hurts us, it hurts the industry, and it hurts the world in the long run. All right, so let's look at these two models again. We have one model that is like a veteran athlete. That is GPT 5.6. That is likely the last model that we're going to get out of the GPT-5 training run, right? So it's their previous generation model, but it is the very best of that class of model. And it's incredibly smart. It gets things done well. It's efficient. It finds very direct paths to solutions. It's just reliable. It has good game IQ. It is the vet. But then we have Fable. And Fable is this absolute monster of a model, but it's like a rookie. It's just entering the league. And it has so much room to grow. That raw talent is there. Their first version of it is incredibly good. It is technically the smartest model on the planet. But they've only started doing that post-training stuff that will get more and more out of it to squeeze every drop of juice out of that model. They've only just begun that. And so while we have GPT 5.6 versus Fable, they are very different models. We have one model at the peak of its game and the other model at the very beginning. And so what happens next? OpenAI probably doesn't have a lot of room to grow the GPT-5 series of models anymore. And likely they have GPT-6 already baked and they're doing that post-training right now, getting it ready for broad release. But if it's anything like Fable, it is going to be a much bigger model and much more expensive to serve. So OpenAI likely will run into some of these demand and supply issues that Fable and Anthropic have been running into. Now, because OpenAI and Sam Altman didn't make that mistake, they overinvested in GPU capacity. They, being Sam Altman, was really willing to risk the entire company based on the fact that he believed AI demand would skyrocket and would never slow down. That belief early on and willingness kind of to bet all their chips puts them in a really good position to serve their next generation model really well. And so what should you do? Let's talk about the practical effects of all these things. Right now, if you have the budget for only one subscription, either OpenAI or Anthropic, I have to recommend the OpenAI subscription. Although Fable is slightly better right now, overall, the value that you get out of an OpenAI subscription is multiple times larger than what you get from an Anthropic subscription. Plus, you don't know what's going to happen in the coming weeks from Anthropic. You don't know if Fable's even going to be available in this subscription. I tend to think it will be, just because that would be a really bad move on Anthropic's part strategically, but you just don't know for sure. They might take it out for a few weeks and then put it back. And all that uncertainty makes it very difficult to build on top of Anthropic. And with that, all of the generous quota, the quota resets, GPT 5.6 just being a phenomenal model, that is the subscription I would recommend going with. I would also recommend right now, if you do have a ChatGPT subscription, use your quotas. Do not try to hoard your tokens. Do not be conservative in this moment. These two companies are going head to head, and you and I are benefiting from it. ChatGPT, Tibo, the whole OpenAI team continue to be extremely generous with their resets. They're doing it to poke the bear that is Anthropic, and we benefit. So use your quotas, use your resets, make sure you're using your resets because they do expire. And so just build. Get out there and build as much as you can right now. So does that mean Anthropic has lost? Well, probably not. And there's two main reasons for this. One, there's so much room for Fable to just get better and get more efficient, and it will happen. Anthropic will acquire more compute capacity, and they will be able to be more generous with serving of the Fable model. But more importantly, and this is actually something I really do believe, recursive self-improvement might make this entire argument moot. Maybe Anthropic doesn't care about serving their models to customers. They just need enough revenue to have enough compute to continue running their company and researching. But here's the thing, if they have the best model on the planet, and that best model is researching the next best model, and that next best model researches the next best model, that is called recursive self-improvement. And so the gap between these two companies might actually be growing. And that is an important factor to consider. Maybe one day, Fable is going to discover a way to make itself 5 times more efficient. And then all of a sudden, Fable is significantly less expensive than GPT 5.6. And of course, OpenAI is working on these very things. But again, with recursive self-improvement, whoever is in the lead generally maintains that lead. Their speed, their momentum of research and improvement only increases. Once RSI starts, whoever's in the lead wins. And that might be the wild card that Anthropic is betting on. And so look, developers are finicky. They not only want the best model, but they also like to be treated well. And whether or not Sam Altman is doing this altruistically or just purely because strategically it's the right move, he is winning the emotional battle. And even though Anthropic is currently winning on overall revenue, especially in the enterprise, I would not count OpenAI out because developers are usually the earliest of adopters and the earliest to change. And so I'm seeing more and more developers choose OpenAI over Anthropic for a lot of these reasons, one of which is just purely the vibes. And once developers choose something, enterprise might be next. So although over the last 6 months, many enterprises have chosen Anthropic, those contracts are generally 1 year and they might be switching back. And a big thank you to Higgsfield once again for sponsoring this video. I'm going to drop a link so you can check them out down below. And by the way, I made an entire video about Anthropic and recursive self-improvement. Go watch that right now.